Good morning, everyone. I see our participant room is filling up, so I will give that just a couple minutes for folks to get in. I know in toddler mom life, it's very hard to get anywhere, even if it's online, right on time. And you'd think after this many years post-pandemic, we would have it all figured out. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. My name is Sonya Harris. I'm sure I've seen some of you along the way, whether it's been Ready Summits or our most recent Rooted, Resilient, and Ready convening, or some of our friends and colleagues that have been doing this work back to census days. My name is Sonya Harris. I'm a senior advisor for the Listos California campaign, and so grateful to be with you this morning. We're trying a few things different for this new bit of information that our team has prepared for you, so bear with us. Usually you would be hearing from Brian Ferguson or Deanna Cross-Palayo, and I'm so excited to share that Brian has taken a new opportunity to serve government in a new way. And Deanna Cross-Palayo, for those of you that were with us just nearly 2 weeks ago, has taken on a new role supporting Governor Gavin Newsom directly. So big round of applause for them, and I hope you'll be easy on me because I haven't done this in a while. If we could move to the next slide, we'll just give you a preview of what we're so excited to share with you today. We'll do a little bit of introduction to the background and creative strategy that we're really thinking of at Listos California. I'm so excited to have my colleague, Meghan Phillips, founder and CEO of Honey Agency on, who will walk you through some of the beautiful creative pieces and tools that the team has been building for you. A little bit about how we plan to get the word out over the next couple of months, really supporting sort of the season of wildfire preparedness. And last but not least, we're very fortunate to have Lais Costa from UC Davis here with us to give us some from, and we'll try to save some time at the end for some questions, because we know you always have many, and hopefully we'll even get you out of here a little early. So with that, we are so excited to announce this sort of next package of tools for our community trusted messengers. If you didn't have a chance to see it, it will be linked in the materials. The governor proclaimed this week as Wildfire Preparedness Week, and Listos California is really excited to join in on that multi-agency effort. The Governor's Office of Emergency Services and our department, fondly known as CAL FIRE, our foresters that work to keep Californians safe year-round, but especially during wildfire season, have been out and about across California. They have been announcing new partnerships that really expand the mutual aid system, helping other tribal governments and others be connected along the way by providing them with incredibly valuable equipment, things like fire trucks and other tools that they can use year-round. And when and if there are one of those natural disasters that we all spend the time preparing for, they can join in to keep Californians safe. This winter has been wet, and with that rain comes a lot of growth and a lot of beauty. And so as sort of Californians look around and see beautiful rolling hills in our rural communities, I was raised in South Yuba County. So as I go to and from home every day, I enjoy the green fields between Yuba County and Sacramento and all of that beauty, but know that soon that's going to turn much drier. And for our colleagues that are further north and in the foothills and in other places in California, certainly recognize that that wildfire threat may feel far away, but it is just around the corner. And so how can we help Californians think about and be prepared for those moments? If we move to the next slide, it really helps us, I think, frame some of the way that we were thinking about some of the materials that you're about to see. We know that our friends at CAL FIRE have incredible programs like Ready, Set, Go. And I'll ask one of my colleagues on the Listos team to drop that CAL FIRE link directly in the chat for everyone. It's really focused around what our rural communities do every year. When I think about my dad preparing, his property, hardening it, making sure that all of that infrastructure is safe from wildfire, really we see Listos's opportunity is to make sure that people and all of the living beings, as you'll hear from Lais later, are connected to that preparedness as well. So we know our charge is very clear. Making sure that regardless of native language, we had to bring this thought to the forefront to make sure people are thinking about all of those plans that they can be putting in place early. We, of course, always want to be informative and relatable and really build that community resilience that we're working towards every day. While we do still want to focus on our top 5 tips, a couple really come up to the top as we've thought about some of the issues and challenges. Again, making a plan, really mapping out exit routes, especially in rural areas when those can be compromised, and of course, signing up for emergency alerts. Next slide. We know that with 8 of the 10 largest wildfires having happened, in our most recent history, many of those have devastated Northern California, parts of the Sierras. So really, while as with all we do with Listos, work to prepare our families and communities across the state, we really wanted to make sure that we're spending a little bit of extra care and attention in the next couple months in a group of 20 counties that we'll show in just a moment. And of course, we still want to stay focused on our older Californians that might need a little bit of help. Some of those with access and functional needs, really honoring some of the lifestyles in rural California where, we may be working many miles from where our loved ones are, and really thinking about if disaster were to strike in those moments, how are we making sure that those back at home or back in the community are safe, and of course all of the constraints that might come around sort of broadband access, connectivity, and really trying to embed that in the way that we were thinking about getting the word out for the next couple of months. Next slide. As I mentioned, there are a handful of regions that we know will be at higher risk than others. That doesn't mean that if you aren't on this list, it doesn't matter. Because of our statewide network of community trusted messengers, we know that these messages will get out and about, and of course, all of the good work that we do online and digital spaces. But these 20 counties are an area that our team, the Listos team, really wants to make sure that we're curating some additional relationships, building our network even further into these rural areas, again, to make sure that wildfire preparedness for family, loved ones, and all the living beings, that you might enjoy on a daily basis are thought about. So I won't go through them and you'll be left with them, but we will reference these a few more times as we go through our presentation here. Again, goals for our team were really to think about hyper-local targeted messaging. And really, I'll leave the beautiful introduction to the campaign to Meghan, but how do we really emphasize exit routes, talking with neighbors, and really making this something that is relevant to everyone and that everyone has a part and piece in. And of course, as we've focused on in the last year, really making sure that people know when to get their information and how to get their information through emergency alert systems that many of our local government teams administer every day. And of course, a little more on the call to action because of that locally driven emergency management system. We know we've told you before, but this handy dandy tool on listoscalifornia.org really is a place that we've tried to make it easy for Californians to find their emergency alert system and really access that information. And I think with that, I'll hand it over to my colleague, Meghan.
Sonya, thank you so much for setting up the research and the why. And, as creatives, we are always challenged to meet our audiences where they are. And when we thought about the importance of May and June, and we thought about the communities and the rural communities specifically that we needed to reach, we had to think a little bit different. And we're excited to share that there's going to be some new materials that are going to be maybe out of the digital landscape. We have those as well, but some added values that we wanted to bring specifically to this campaign. What you're seeing is our community placement opportunity, which are a poster suite that we have created. And, one of the things that we found in research is with, individuals more spread out, with communities possibly not having broadband access, there are certain places in which there are frequent connection points. These can be local banks, these could be Rotaries, these could be USPS. And I think we're all very familiar with posters, even at libraries, that we've seen and engaged with over and over again. So with Prepare for California Wildfires Now, the creative for this campaign was brought to life with a really people-centric, neighborhood-forward mindset. We wanted the writing and we wanted the creative to be extremely clear and also extremely connected to the backdrops that the folks are living in. We're really excited to kind of bring a lot more of our rural community sort of landscape to the forefront, more of the sweeping California mindset, as well as the animals that also play a large role, which you're going to hear from in a minute, that are going to have a lot of tips about sort of the animal welfare portion of preparedness. So Prepare for Wildfires Now is really about connectivity, connecting with rural communities, reminding them that even though those green fields are right behind them, they're going to go gold and they're going to go fast. And it's really critical for everyone to be making a plan immediately, especially with neighbors, mapping out that exit route and mapping out that plan, and most importantly, signing up for those emergency alerts. So we have a fresh suite of creative. I do want to note that when you get to the toolbox and resources page, these are prepared for easy print. So they are 8.5 by 11. We hope that you're able to definitely make sure that they're easy for you to hang and print and find placement for within your communities. And then also we will be doing a limited run, and more will follow on that for those folks who want to have the capabilities of getting some posters specifically for their communities. We're really excited. We do have our Spanish language posters as well, which have gone through a full cultural adaptation review to make sure that the photos, the words, and all of the efforts for the creative are absolutely, checking sort of what we need for our Spanish language. Continuing on, we also thought about where else our folks in rural communities could going and connecting. And we are going to be making window clings for our C-stores. One of the things that we heard are a lot of our workers that are, going out into rural communities, they're kind of stopping at their local convenience store to grab their water, especially as extreme heat hits, grab those Gatorades, and we want to connect with them at those moments. So we will, the Listos team, be actually adding window clings with over 100 C-stores around our target regions to be able to bring the good neighbors prepared together creative to the forefront at areas in which we have those audiences, which is really exciting as a new add to this campaign. As we move on from the window clings, let's talk about that social toolkit you guys are all very familiar with. Our job is to build a surround sound system, as we say, with key messages that are easy for you to lift and pull and to bring into your communities. The campaign has launched with a medley and suite of different images and different community messages that will help be really resonant for those communities that need to prepare for wildfires now. listoscalifornia.org/resources will have the entire toolkit for you to grab, which is very exciting. Our digital partners have also extended the poster suite with a ton more digital efforts for you to put onto your social channels. I would say that one of the most powerful things that you may want to think about is how we can amplify this message. As Sonya said, the ambassadors are just as important as you. Think about who you can tag when you post these digital suites. Tag your local banks, tag your local your Rotaries, and make sure that folks that are your neighbors are also seeing this. We're all united together in our rural communities, and we want to prepare for wildfires together now. So again, think about just not having that one post digitally live in one sphere, but really think about ways in which you can have other folks engage with that content. One other effort that we have put in is there are some reels. There are some other ways in which we're having some ambassadors, and sort of text only images come forward in our digital suite. So please note that, digital, what is it? A video is worth 1,000,000 words or static images. So we did want to have a little bit more movement and connectivity, since that is how a lot of things are being consumed these days. So just note that the way we're thinking of digital suites is also a multifaceted and omni-channel. We're thinking about not just photography, but reels and just also static images. This will also give you a really good, diverse digital effort in terms of the way your entire digital suite looks. So instead of just having just one style of creative, we've added multiple styles of creative for Prepare for Wildfires now in our toolkit. And I'm going to hand it back to Sonya to talk about more about getting that word out and building those trusted messengers. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Megan. And a huge shout out to the Lamont digital team. They often are part of our presentations, but the incredible work that goes into keeping our social channels creative, fresh, and fun. To make sure that we're breaking through all of the incredible content that creators are making these days on social media. So just want to do a quick shout out to the team. So there's a few things of these kind of 6 tactics that should look familiar. Obviously, just like today, we continue to find ways to ensure that our community trusted messengers, CBOs, leaders, program directors, our promotoras have access to all of the incredible tools and understand a little bit of the why behind the work that we are putting forward. We are working with our partners in ethnic media, which we will be announcing a briefing later this month to do the same, really to provide a space that they can understand more about sort of the dangers of wildfires, and again, how to protect all of the living beings in that home or on that property. And last but not least, of some of the work that we've continued to do, you'll recall last year we did start a pilot program, which did start in some rural counties to call people directly. So again, thinking about some of those barriers that we know some Californians face, digital literacy, access to devices in order to find information online. We really believe it's important to make that one-on-one, person-to-person connection. So our community phone bank team is focused in the next several months on those 20 counties that were up on screen, and I'll try to read those at the end of the presentation, really just to make sure that we're checking on those friends and neighbors and that they have what they need to get connected to alerts. We are incredibly excited to also forge some new partnerships. Our colleagues, I'll have you go back for just one second. Our colleagues at Rural County Representatives of California, it's an association that represents or has representation from 40 of our rural counties across California, are stepping up to help us get the word out. We'll be doing some special webinars for elected officials, county administrative officers, and others, and possibly a little bit more with our colleagues at RCRC. So the fact that they're stepping up to help us get out all of these beautiful materials is really, I think, just a testament to their leadership in making sure Californians stay safe. As Meghan went through, we are focused on providing more resources for community postings to make sure that at those connection points in communities that these messages are alive and well. And last but not least, in a lot of the work that we've done, whether it be census, vaccines, emergency preparedness, we know that in some of the rural counties, community-based services are also provided through volunteer groups. And so I think the next slide shares a little bit more about how we've been thinking about community meetings and events. So I'll have, we recognize that there are some regular meetings, as Meghan mentioned, rotaries and such. We've created a couple new tools, which is a sort of smaller, truncated PowerPoint or presentation that could be easily shown at one of these meetings to, again, raise up sort of awareness around the importance of preparedness. And a new leave behind that really helps people understand what to be prepared for, what tips are sort of at the top of the list, where they can get additional resources, through Listos sort of 1.0 and 2.0 as those that have been with us for a while. No, we've really focused on building evergreen materials, the disaster resource guide, and some sort of quick guides around specific disaster topics. And so just really want to make sure people know that all of those evergreen resources are there. We've also updated some of our online resources. When we were doing some of these outreach pieces, we were really noticing that folks were having a hard time finding what they needed. And so the QR codes on the materials will take you directly to this new resource on the website, which is sort of dedicated to wildfire preparedness. It also links to the Ready, Set, Go campaign that I mentioned. So I think someone's already dropped that in the chat. If I'm seeing the pop-ups correctly, thank you, Coy. But it's also there too. So as you're sending Californians, we're really trying to think about what their experience might be. And last but not least, OES has helped us connect with local public information officers who are equipped to answer questions and talk more about wildfire preparedness. So in the coming days, the Valley Vision team will be rolling out a process by which you can refer and ask for guest speakers at community meetings. Obviously, these will be in first come, first serve fashion, but we really thought it was important that we had technical experts that were ready and prepared to go out into rural areas to help share some of this information and to be a resource and kind of make preparation less intimidating. And with that, we have been doing a bit of research about our colleagues. Here we know are just a handful of examples of service-based clubs: Rotary, Kiwanis, Seroptimus, Lion. I know there are many others that are not represented here. And we've got sort of a running list of folks that we want to make sure have all of this information, but we would love your help. So if you could, and if you know of service-based organizations, other community-based organizations that might sort of traditionally be outside of our Listos California network, we want to know who they are so we can share some of these new resources with them and make sure that they can get connected as well. We know many of them meet regularly, weekly at times, and prioritize bringing in some speakers like this. And so again, just really want to try to be available for those that are open to sharing. And without further ado, I am so excited to introduce Lais Costa. She has been at the forefront of many emergency response efforts and recovery efforts over, I think it was the last 16 years, if I was counting right. And so just to have her with us, volunteering her time today to talk a little bit more about her work and the incredible resources that UC Davis has around preparedness, especially as she embarks, I think, on a new body of work. We're so excited to have you here, Lais. Please.
Thank you, Sonya. So as Sonya mentioned, I'm a veterinarian at the UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, and I've been part of the UC Davis Veterinary Emergency Response Team, and we respond to the Camp Fire, Caldor, Dixie, among others. And I'm here today to actually try to get you guys to work on getting communities to think about their animals and the importance to include them in the planning. So to illustrate that, I chose a few images that highlight the importance of animals, and that go transition me to talk from response as I move into preparedness. So here in the top left corner, you see this horse obviously successfully escaped the fire, uninjured, tired but uninjured, dehydrated but uninjured, and far away from home. It wasn't the case for this pig in the middle top and the goat in the bottom right, where they were in the middle of a fire and they sustained pretty significant burns. And luckily, with our care in the veterinary medical teaching hospital, they survived. But the other images is just to highlight cats are often left behind, because when things get in the panic mode, cats hide. It's very hard to get a cat to get into its carriers. And so it's important to think of that. Chickens, sometimes very difficult to round them all up. So again, they are not uncommonly left behind. And even though here in the middle bottom, you see dogs, I wanted to highlight the fact that dogs, even though they're often with people, they can get impacted by the fires. And so my next slide sort of shows as a transition from that experience of deployment, it became clear to me the need to include community planning, have animals included. And so that's kind of how I trying to summarize here in this slide. And this is the goal, is to improve evacuation and not have animals that are injured, and also improve reunification. So here are a few tips that I'm hoping community organizations will work with their community members and for them to be thinking of their animals. And so the plan, as Listos has done a beautiful work on getting families to prepare, to make sure they include all their animals. And that is not just household animals, but the backyard animals. And it's important to have photos with their animals, because you need to prove that the animal is indeed yours. And so that you have some kind of permanent identification. Again, that's very important for reunification. Transportation, so including in that planning of communication, who are you going to call to help transport your animals if that is the case. And practice the plans like you do in schools. They do the fire drills, same thing here. And in the bottom here, I have a few images to highlight a few points. One is that cats need to like to be transported, or at least be in their carrier. So it's something that families can work way during blue skies to make sure they can get their cats when things are not going right, and evacuate them. Make sure there's some kind of permanent identification. And so microchipping is the ideal. And if horses are sometimes very hard to load as well, when everything is sort of in an emergency situation. So again, just like cats, horses need to kind of be trained to be loaded and transported. And so the other tip is on red flag days to have the vehicle road ready and have the animals pretty much ready to go, because you do want to evacuate early. You don't want the family to be panicking, trying to get their animals and delay their departure and putting themselves at risk. So we want to work with Listos and community organizations to bring the point, the importance of animals in their plans. So with that, I will pass to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Lais. And, we want to be sensitive about not scaring folks, but definitely want to make sure that, people are thinking about their furry and sometimes their working animals, as they're thinking about preparedness, because it does take a little bit of that extra thought. I remember when we were evacuating our home, I was only 10 years old and it was a flood. So it was a little bit different than a fire and, in terms of approach and speed. And my dad had, a basket of things. At the time I had a bunny. So he had the bunny cage ready to go and we loaded up, and I had my rabbit on the left and my dog Sheba on the right in the back of the pickup. And, he had everything prepared already in the back of the truck because we knew that danger was sort of upon us. So certainly appreciate how important it is for, for all of the members of our family. Very excited. Our team has planning well underway. Last year, we welcomed nearly, I think, 700 folks from across the state to 8 different Ready Summits during the month of September. And we got overwhelming feedback that the space we were able to create for emergency responders to come together with community-based organizations. This particular photo was our Ready Summit in Chico, I think, which is the first time I got to meet Lais. So lots of fond memories coming back from just last fall. But you said you wanted more. And you said that it was so critical to building those connections across community members. So over the coming weeks, we are excited to announce some of the locations that we would like to visit. And we may be calling upon some of you to help us with community locations that are comfortable and appropriate to host some interactive sessions, really to give you the space to connect with your colleagues and others in the community. So very excited for Ready Summits to kick off for this year. So stay tuned to our newsletter and our social media channels, because that is where we will be releasing some of those dates and how you can sign up. Of course, we, I think, are coming off of an incredible 3 days. It's the first time that 2 different state agencies have brought together their networks of trusted messengers to be able to partner with the Office of Community Partnerships and Strategic Communication within the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, and really help build some connection points between our Listos California partners and that group of community trusted messengers working on water conservation, preparing Californians for extreme heat, and so many other important topics. It was beautiful to see 600 of you come together, making those, again, peer-to-peer connections, discovering each other in regions. If my friend Sue from San Francisco NERT is on today for the recommendation for us to get together by regions. Again, really just to meet other committed leaders that really want to see a brighter and safer California tomorrow. So thank you for that. And this is a bit of a request. For those that were with us, we had a lesson about eating, asking for and eating cake. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll have to ask a friend that went, because you definitely should have some FOMO for missing that. But we do have a survey that did go out earlier this week that we are asking participants to provide feedback on. Again, we really love data at Listos California. As Meghan mentioned, we really love our research and we want to hear directly from you. So there are some specific questions that we ask, and I think some prizes for those that take the time to get that survey, and may also be in order. And last but not least, before we flip over to questions, if you're willing to, please feel free to put your name, organization in the chat so we know who's here, and to just introduce yourself to those around. But some of the evergreen resources, if you aren't familiar, we've got a really great hub on our listoscalifornia.org page. Here are a couple of the examples that are related to wildfire that we've got. Again, some of those quick sheets in multiple languages, as well as some of our general preparedness tips. So please, please, please check it out. We've also got some kids activities. So if you are out in the community and you need that little bit of extra time to talk to that parent, some activities to keep those kids happy for that couple minutes so you can do a little bit of that face-to-face exchange. So I think happy to take a few questions live here. Let's see. And I think the first one up is to read the list of counties that we'll be focused on. So if I could have a colleague go back to that slide at the top. There we go. These aren't in any particular order, but Siskiyou, Modoc, Trinity, Shasta, Tehama, Glen, Butte, Colusa, Lake, Napa, Sonoma, Lassen, Plumas, Sierra, Nevada, our friends in El Dorado, Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne. Those are the 20 areas we are looking to do just a little bit of extra work in, again, just in the vein of knowing they're in a little bit higher risk areas. The next question comes from Cameron around understanding more about the phone call program. We have community callers that are able to have conversations in multiple languages. And those calls are really organic. I think, you know, if I were to pretend you were on the other side of the phone, it might say something like, "Hey, Cameron, my name is Sonya. I'm a volunteer with Listos California, and I'm calling on behalf of you know, the campaign today to make sure that you're signed up for emergency alerts. Is that something you're aware of?" And from there, the team really has an incredibly organic communication to try to assess kind of what that person needs, answer their questions, and really get them to the resources they need. If that's, you know, knowing how to get to their, you know, emergency management team in Tuolumne, signing up for alerts in YOLO, or what have you. Let's see. Do we have particular plans for isolated elders, non-English speakers, and are we working with churches? Candace, yes to all of the above. I think the spirit of Listos California is to be the source that is accessible for many, many communities, and we've got established relationships with other state departments that help reach particular communities, and we do have a few churches within our network of Listos California grantees, and certainly many other churches that have expressed interest. Lots of colleagues at places like Catholic Charities. If you didn't catch him, Jorge Zavala is one of the team members that presented some of the ways that they're taking Listos tools and using them in communities and consultations. So some really, really great work. Let's see. Allie is asking about some resources for animal evacuation. Lais, is that something you could help with? Any resources at UC Davis or otherwise that she might want to check out?
Yeah, so CDFA has some resources in sort of general. There are local resources. So if you're looking, you can you want to connect with people locally that can do that. And so there are some resources at the CDFA under CARES. Sonya Brown has put together some resources. And then which county it is, could you put in the chat with which county are you? Which region are you asking? Because that would also help to connect you with local resources. So maybe you can come to one of the Listos meeting and summits, and we can connect you with the right people.
Yeah, or feel free to also send a quick note to just hello@listoscalifornia.org, and we can do a little bit more specific matchmaking, if you will. It looks like Julie, one of our colleagues on the webinar, also suggests halter project.org, HALTER project.org. Let's see. Oh my
Walter's a good
goodness.
partner of UC Davis.
Oh, great. Mackenzie, thank you for the love. Food Bank of El Dorado County. Let's see. I'm trying to navigate between me asking you to also put in your organization. Let's see, best and quickest way to order assets for our organizations. We will be sharing some of that information with our newsletter, I believe tomorrow. So more to come on how to order things. Let's see. Are we partnering with any organizations who help with mitigation wildfire preparedness? I think that might be, and it's anonymous. I think that might be sort of speaking to some of our folks like resource conservation districts and fire safe councils and CAL FIRE. Again, Cal OES is doing a joint project this week with CAL FIRE. Yes, definitely to also think about some of those hardening best practices as well. Let's see. Trying to get through here. I'll do a couple more. It looks like there's a organization here on behalf of United Policyholders who does community events, and there's some activity in Cambria and Scotts Valley. So appreciate you being here. I love this. Would it be possible to have a webinar with Jorge? We'll have to ask him that. Let's see. Another question for you, Lais. Are there safe ways for dog or cat owners to subdue their pets if they're worried about them during an evacuation? Appropriate medications that they might be able to keep in a go bag?
Yeah, you would have to work with their veterinarians. There are some sort of chemical restraints, if you will, things that you would have to be a prescription. But truthfully, if you can work with your animal and create little exercises that practice, just like we do with your kids, that I'm sure Sonya's dad, when he prepared, he got the kids kind of having the animal practicing those drills regularly, so they are no longer drills, they are just a fun thing. Let's get and do this. So that work beforehand really help their welfare. Of course, your veterinarian will be able to prescribe drugs that would be appropriate for your animal, especially if there are some medical conditions they need to be aware of. And so when you make your preparedness, you should involve your veterinarian to get that information, because some animals, they really will need some medical intervention or medicine to calm them down. But you can work with their to decrease the stress by working regularly with them. And so that was my suggestion.
Thank you. Let's see, Maria, hopefully I get this right, but she says, es un gusto aprender, well, it's moving, de ustedes y pasar su información a la comunidad de cómo debemos prepararnos para las emergencias. So I think, if I'm right here, she's just expressing appreciation for the information and being able to pass it on to communities in emergencies. Let's see, a few more folks checking in on where they're representing. Let's see, thank you, Blue Lake Rancheria, for being here. We will get you added to the email list for this. A shout out for Lais for the animal information. Perfect. I think maybe we'll take this as a last question for Lais, because she's our wonderful expert. Let's see, preparedness tips for pet owners to increase odds of unifications if they run off during an active disaster. I think you spoke a little bit to that on microchipping, but please, Lais.
Yep. That is crucial. It's really important. And we think, you know, if you're different species will have different things. So microchip is, you know, it's in the body, is under the skin, and it's not visible, so that is a problem. But when the animal is rescued, then we can scan and we can identify. So microchipping the animal is very important, and updating the information about the microchip, so people can get a hold of the owner. So that is an important piece. And even the microchips that are in ear tags for livestock is a problem, because if they get burned or they get torn, you have no identification for that animal. So under the skin in the neck is really the ideal way to have a permanent identification and facilitate reunification. The other important thing is for you to have the microchip information and a photo of you with your animal for that reunification, because unfortunately, there are people out there that want to shop for animals, and they say, oh, this is such a nice animal, I'm going to claim is mine. So it's unfortunate. So they're very stringent about you proving that the animal is indeed yours. Of course, if you have the microchip information in the cloud, they say, oh yeah, that's this person. But the photo ID is important too.
Wonderful. Well, with that, we will conclude a little bit early. Please, please, please don't let this be the first or only or last time that we have a chance to be with you. Please, if you've got more questions, feel free to email those to hello@listoscalifornia.org. And a huge, huge thank you to my colleague Meghan, Lais, and the entire Listos California team for really putting our rural communities front and center as we prepare for wildfire season. And most importantly, thank you to each and every one of you. I often refer to you as our unsung heroes, because doing that work, each person you talk to might be a life that you save. So enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. We'll see you soon.